How you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Squeaky chair. That's bad. Because I don't think that we have a replacement. Ooh. Okay. Not sure what I'm going to do over here. Anyways, welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying, it's a very squeaky situation over here. Alright. Very, very squeaky. I'm not really sure what to do. Very, very, very squeaky. Shoes, floor, chair. Squeaky. Friends, there might be a lot of squeaking in today's daf. Al Koponim. Today we are studying Daf Yud Gimel of Masechta Sotah. Friends, do I have a daf for you? Do I have a daf for you? At the same time, friends, I gotta go do B'dikas Chometz, so I gotta hustle a shtickle. It's Pesach time, things are busy. So I gotta hustle a shtickle, but friends, do I have a gewaldige daf for you? So we're gonna start on Daf Yud Gimel Amud Aleph, 2 lines into the wider lines, about 8 lines into the page, second of the wider lines. Yosef Zocha v'chule. Joseph merited that Moshe Rabbeinu took care of his burial. My shno meikar dichsiv. How come when they went to bury Joseph, did it initially say Vayal Yosef likbar es aviv, that Joseph went to what did I say? That when they went to bury Jacob, so it says that Joseph went to bury his father Jacob. Vayalu ito kol avdei par v'gomer, and with Joseph was all of the servants of Pharaoh. V'hadar v'chol beis Yosef v'echav u'veisav. And then after mentioning Joseph and all the people from Pharaoh, does it then mention Joseph's family, his brothers, and his father's household? And then on the way back, it says, Yosef Mitzrayim, that Joseph went back to Egypt, who ve'echov, he and his brothers, v'hadar v'chol ha'olamito likbar saviv. And then afterwards, the entourage. So how come on the way there, the entourage precedes the family, and on the way back, the family precedes the entourage? Amar Reb Yochanan. So Reb Yochanan answers this quandary for us. So initially on the way to the burial, prior to the entourage witnessing the honor of Israel, lo nagu ben kavod, so the entourage didn't treat the family of Joseph with respect. Ulvasov, but on the way back, Shero b'chvodan, after they had witnesses, after the entourage had witnessed the honor of Israel, nagu ben kavod, so then the entourage respected the family of Israel, and that is why in the way back it says Joseph and then his family, and then only afterwards the entourage. What is this honor that the entourage witnessed of the children of Israel? Well, it says that when they went to bury Jacob, so they arrived at the granary of the thorns. What granary of thorns? Thorns don't have granaries. Grain has granaries, not thorns. Omra Babo Melamed, says Babo, it teaches Sheikifu Ksarim La'arene Shel Yaakov, that they surrounded Jacob's coffin with crowns. Kigarin Zeh, like a granary, Shemakifin Lo Oto, that you surround the granary with thorns, with thorn bushes, to keep out any unwanted creatures. So similar to how a granary is surrounded by thorn bushes, Jacob's coffin was surrounded by crowns. Shebo Bnei Esav uvnei Ishmael uvnei Keturah, that the children of Esau and Ishmael and Keturah, they all came. Tanakulim lamilchama bo, and they had all initially come to wage war against the children of Israel. Kevan shero kisro shel Yosef, but when the children of Esau and Ishmael and Keturah saw the crown of Joseph, Talui Barono Shel Yaakov, that was on the coffin of Jacob, Notlu Kulan Kisrayin. So then all of these nations, they took their crowns, Utlom Barono Shel Yaakov, and they also put their crowns on the coffin of Jacob. Tana Shloshim Vishisha Ksarim Nitlu Barono Shel Yaakov, and it was taught in the Brisa that there were 36 crowns that were placed on the coffin of Jacob. Vayispedu Sham Mispid Gadol, and they eulogized there a big eulogy, V'chavid Me'od, and very heavy, Tana Afilu Susim Afilu Chmorim, that even horses and donkeys took part in the eulogy for Jacob. Kevon Shegiu Lemaris HaMachpelah. Friends, so this is where it gets very, very famous. Anybody ever heard of Chushim ben Don? Does hearing that name, Chushim ben Don, get you very excited that you're about to learn the actual story about Chushim ben Don? Here we go. Kevon Shegiu Lemaris HaMachpelah. Now, finally, they arrive with the coffin of Jacob at the doubled cave, Maris Machpelah in Chevron. Also Esau shows up, Kame'akev, and he's preventing them from interring Jacob in the Maris Machpelah. Amrloin, Esau says, Mamre Kiryas Ha'arba Chevron, that Chevron, aka Kiryas Arbe, V'Omer, Rabbi Yitzchak, and Rabbi Yitzchak explains Kiryas Arbe Zugis Hoyu, that Rabbi Yitzchak explains that Kiryas Arbe is a reference to the 4 pairs that were buried in the Maris HaMachpelah. Adam v'Chava, Avram v'Sareh, Yitzchak v'Rivka, Yaakov v'Leah. Those were the 4 pairs that were buried in Maris HaMachpelah. Ihu Kavra Leleah B'Didei. And then Esau argues that, look, there's the 4th pair that's remaining, right? Adam and Eve were already buried there. Abraham and Sarah already buried. Isaac and Rebecca already buried there. There's 2 remaining. Wait 1 second. Hopefully nobody's knocking on the door for me. It should be quiet here. I'm just nervous because I'm shtickle late for B'dikas Chometz, so I hope nobody's coming for me. Probably not. Hakuponim, we got Babylon Talmud to do. What do you want me to tell you? You got to squeeze everything in. So Iu cover so there's 2 remaining, and Esau reasons that one should be for Jacob, and one should be for him. So he says, look, Iu cover the Leah Bedide, Jacob already used his for Leah. And therefore the remaining grave is for me, argues Esau. Amru Lei, the children of Israel argue back, Zabinta, that they say, Esau, you sold your right to the plot in the Machpelah cave. Omar Lehu, to which Esau replies, granted that I sold my firstborn rights. Pshitusa mizavine, did I sell my right to the Machpelah cave? Omrule, they responded, you sure did. Dichsev, as the pasuk says, Bekivri asher karisili, that Jacob says to Joseph that I'd like you to bury me in the cave asher karisili, in the grave asher karisili. V'amr Yochanan mishum ben Yehotzadok ein kira el lashon mechira. That karisi means that I bought, that it was sold, that I bought. She came bekarche ayam koin mechira kira, because in the cities of the sea they call selling kira. Okay, so we see that Jacob had bought the plot in the Machpelah cave. Omar Lehu. So Esau says to the Bnei Yisrael, he says, Havuli Igarta. Well, if Jacob really bought it, so show me the paperwork. Omar Le, Amrule, Igarta be'ared Mitzrayim hi. The paperwork is in Egypt. Uman Nezel. So now they have to figure out, okay, we got Esau here who's preventing us from burying our father in the Machpelah cave. The paperwork is back in Egypt. What do we do? So they said, Nezel Naftali de Kalil ki ayalto, that Naphtali should run back to Egypt because he is fast like like a hind or something, some kind of one of those fast animals, little things, fast animals. Tichsiv, as the pasuk says, Naphtali ayala shlucha, that Naphtali is like a hind. I don't know, one of those fast little animals, fast ones. Hanos in Imre Shefer, that gives Imre Shefer. Amr Abba Atikra Imre Shefer Imre Sefer. Basically, Naphtali is going to go and get the paperwork. Now, here we go. Chushin braided Don. Don had a son Chushin. Tamon Hava, he was there. V'yikirin le'udne, and he was hard of hearing. And he couldn't hear, he didn't understand what was going on, but he understood from the context, he understood that there was some kind of a commotion. Amrulu, Chushin ben Don says, my hi, what's this commotion? They said to him, and they explained how Esau was preventing them from burying their father until Naphtali comes back from Egypt. Omerlu, Hushim ben Don says, this doesn't make sense. And I don't understand. You're telling me that and until Naphtali comes back from Egypt, my grandfather Jacob is just going to be lying here in disgrace, waiting for paperwork. Shakal kulpo machya areshe. He took a staff and whacked Esau in the head. Nasrin einei v'nofla akar de Yaakov. Esau's eyes popped out of their sockets and landed by Jacob's feet. Paschinu Yaakov le'enei, Jacob opens his eyes, v'ochech, and he gives a grin, a smile. V'hainu dichsiv, this is what the pasuk says, Yismach Tzadik, that a righteous individual will be happy, ki chazonokom, when he sees revenge, paimov yirchatz b'dam rasha, and he will wash his feet in the blood of the nudnik. Bosashah niskaima nefu asa shah Rivke, and at that time, Rivke's prophecy came true. Tichsiv, as she says, Lo me'eshkol gam shnechem yom echad. Why should I lose both of my children on the same day? V'avagavdim isason lo b'yom echad avoy. Granted, their death was not on the same day, right? Yaakov had died before Esau did, but kvurason miyah b'yom echad avoy. Nonetheless, their burial was on the same day. V'ilo osak be Yosef echov lohavu. Now, going back to the fact that Joseph buried Jacob, what if Joseph would not have buried him, the brothers would not have? But doesn't the pasuk say, Vayisu also bono of Artz Canaan, that his children brought him to the land of Canaan? Omru, they said, Anichu lo kvodu b'melachim Yosef mibed Jotis. So they said, yes, but let Joseph deal with the burial because it's more honorable for a king, Joseph, who was the viceroy of Egypt, to bury their father rather than us simpletons. Milanu goy. So 1 second. Friends, that was the famous story of Hushim ben Don. Very interesting stuff. Milanu gadol mi Yosef chule. Now the Mishnah had said that Yosef, Moses took it upon himself to bury and to handle the bones of Joseph. Tanu Abodon, the rabbi said, mitzvahs al Moshe Rabbeinu. Come and see how beloved mitzvahs are to Moses, our teacher. That around the time of the Exodus from Egypt, so all of the Israelites were busy taking booty. Where am I? Vihu nisasik b'mitzvahs, while Moses was busy doing mitzvahs. Shenemar, as the pasuk says, chacham lev yikach mitzvahs v'chulei, that a person who is wise of the heart, he takes mitzvahs. And how did Moses know where Joseph was buried? How did Moses know where Joseph was buried to take his bones? Omru, friends, Serach bas Osher nishtayre mi oso ador. That Serach, the daughter of Osher, remained from that generation. Serach bas Osher was still alive. I think Serach bas Osher is one of the people who never died. Halach Moshe etzla, Moses went to Serach, Omar lo, and he says to her, Klumat yodah seichan Yosef cover, do you know where Joseph is buried? Omar lo, she says to Moses, Arun shomateches osulo mitzrim, the Egyptians made a coffin of metal, ukva'u benilu sanar, and they put the coffin into the Nile, kadeshi yizbarchu meimav, so that the waters of the Nile would be blessed by having the coffin of Joseph in it. Halach Moshe v'amar asvas nilus, so Moses went and stood by the bank of the Nile. Omar lo, Yosef, Yosef, and Moses says, Joseph, Joseph, it has arrived the time that the Eibishter swore that I am going to redeem you. And now we must act upon the swear that you made the Israelites swear. If you're going to show me where you are lying, then givaldig, I'll get you and take you with me. But if you don't show me where you are, then we are clean from your oath. We tried. Miyad sofarono shel Yosef, and immediately the coffin of Joseph floated to the top. And don't be so surprised about the fact that metal, that iron is floating, because at the end of the day, Shari Ksiv, we have a pasuk that says by Elisha, by Echad Mapil Akora, that somebody was felling wood with an axe, ve'esa barzel nofal el hamoim v'chulei v'gomer, and the iron from the axe got separated from the handle and went flying into the water. Aho Adoni v'u Shaul, and he cries out to Elisha, Elisha, what do I do? Can you help me? That was a borrowed axe. Vayomer Isha Elokim, and Elisha says, Ono nofal, where did it fall? Vayareu es hamokim, and the fellow showed Elisha where the iron had fallen. Vayiktov eish, vayashlich shamo. Elisha took wood and threw it there. Vayitzov abarzel, and the iron floated to Vayotzef abarzel, and the iron floated to the surface. So we see that iron can float, and so did the coffin of Joseph float to the top. And now we have the following kavachomer. Elisha tamido shel Eliyahu, that if Elisha is a student of Elijah, Eliyahu tamido shel Moshe, and Elijah is a student of Moses, so barzel mipanov, and the iron floated to the surface for Elisha, mipnei Moshe Rabbeinu, then certainly for Moses, our teacher, alachas kama v'chama, certainly iron should float to the surface. If for Elisha, who was who was like a student be'etzim of Moses, a student of Elijah, who was ultimately a student of Moses, so if it floated to the top for Elisha, then certainly for Moses. Reb Nosson Omer says, Reb Nosson b'kabarnet shel melachim haya cover. So Reb Nosson has a slightly different version, which is that Joseph was not buried in the Nile; he was buried in a I guess like catacomb or something, some place where the kings were buried. Halach Moshe v'Amad al kabarnet shel melachim. So Moses went and he stood by the catacomb. Omar Yosef higia eish shenishba kadosh baruch hu shani goel eschem. And Moses says, Joseph, the time has come that I am going to redeem you. Israel, and now you must act upon the oath that you made Israel swear. If you show yourself where you are so we can take you, then great. But if you don't show me where you are buried, well then, there's not much we can do and we're moving on. We tried. But Soshan is the Isaiah, Arono Shel Yosef, and at that time the coffin of Joseph moved around. It wiggled a bit. Not Natalo Moshe Bavio Etzlo, and Moses then took the coffin and took it with him. And all of those years that the Yidden were in the desert, there were these two boxes, containers. One container held the remains of Joseph, and the other the divine presence, the luchis. Where am I? And they would, they would be there, these two containers. And passerby would ask, what's with these two containers? And they would answer, oh yeah, one of them has the remains of a corpse, the other one has the divine presence. And they say, I don't understand, why would a corpse be walking together with the divine presence? The reason why a corpse in one container is alongside the luchis in another container is because Joseph, who's the corpse, was mekayim all of the mitzvahs in the Torah. And if Moses would not have taken care of the bones of Joseph, would not the Bnei Yisrael have done so? But after all, the pasuk says that the bones that the children of Israel brought from Egypt were buried in Shechem. So it's saying that the Bnei Yisrael brought them, not necessarily that Moses brought them. Visu, and more so, Eloi Asku Be Yisrael. And what if the Bnei Yisrael would not have taken responsibility for Joseph's bones? Bonavlo Habu Mi Askebe, would not his children, right, the children of Joseph and his tribe, have taken responsibility for his bones? After all, the pasuk says, Yosef that in that same pasuk where it says that the Bnei Yisrael took the bones of Joseph, it says that they were as an inheritance. So, right, Livnei Yosef, to the children of the descendants of Joseph. So not just Bnei Yisrael, but the children of Joseph. So Amra Anichu Lo Kvodo Bimrubim Yosef B'Muat. And the reason why it was the Bnei Yisrael rather than the Bnei Yosef is because the Bnei Yosef said, look, we understand that it's more honorable to have more people busy with his burial rather than less people, and therefore if all of Bnei Yisrael could be responsible for it, then that would be better. Visu, and more so, Amru Anichu Lo Kvodu B'Gdolim Yosem B'Ktanim. And then the Bnei Yisrael said, you know what, we're happy for Moses to take responsibility because better with a Gadol like Moses, more so than just regular Toms, Dicks, and Harrys like us Bnei Yisrael. Now says the Gemara, Kavru b'Shechem, they buried Joseph in Shechem, in Nablus. Mashna b'Shechem, how come in Nablus? Omer Chama b'Chanina mishchem ganvuhu l'Shechem nachze v'daso. Well, because since Joseph was kidnapped from Shechem, so we also brought him back to Shechem to be buried there. Kashukroi ahadode. Now we say, 1 second, I don't understand. On the one hand, Ksiv, Vayikach Moshe Esatzmos Yosef Imo. That on the one hand, the pasuk says that Moses took the bones of Joseph. Uchsiv, and the pasuk says Vesatzmos Yosef Shehelu Bnei Yisrael V'Gomer. The bones of Joseph that the Bnei Yisrael brought. So is it Moses or the Bnei Yisrael? That if somebody does epis but doesn't complete it, and somebody else comes and complete it, right? Moses began bringing the bones of Joseph, but obviously he didn't go into Eretz Yisrael to Nablus, and the Bnei Yisrael completed it. So right, Gemara Ma'ila Olav Akosov Al Shenigmeru Ki'ilu Aso Al Shigmero Ki'ilu Aso. So we treated the person who completed the task as if they're the ones who did it, and it was the Bnei Yisrael who ultimately brought the bones of Joseph to Nablus. Rabbi Elazar Omer says, Rabbi Elazar Af Moridin also Migdul also, that if also somebody starts with something and does not complete it, we lower him from his greatness. Tichsev, as it says by Judah, by Yibayis Ai, by Yerid Yehuda, that at that time Judah went down. Rabbi Shmuel ben Achmani Omar. Period. That Rabbi Yehuda sort of descended from his greatness. That Yehuda, it was his idea to spare Joseph. Right. He says, why should we kill Joseph? Let's just throw him into a pit. But then he left him there. He didn't actually complete the salvation. And it says afterwards that Yehuda kind of had a downfall after that. By Yerid Yehuda, he had a downward turn in his life. Rav Shmuel ben Achmani Omar Afkover Ishta Ovanov, says Rav Shmuel ben Achmani that if you don't finish what you started, so then you're going to bury your wife and children. Tichsev, as the Apostle says, Vatamos Bashua Eishes Yehuda V'Gomer, that Judah's wife died. Uchsev Vayamos Er V'Onan, and also says that his children Er and Onan died as well. Amar Yehuda Amar Rav Mipnei Manikra Yosef Atzmos B'Chayev. How come Joseph is called bones even in his life, right? Even while he's alive, right? That Yosef had made the people promise that they should take his bones, so he's referencing his bones already while he's still alive. Because he didn't protest in the honor of his father, that his brothers, when they came to Egypt for food, they kept on they were referencing their your servant, our father. V'lo amar lehu v'lo midi, and he didn't tell them not to say that. I mean, he didn't interrupt them. They were saying to Joseph that Jacob is his servant, and he didn't correct them. That is why he was called bones in his own life. Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Rabbi Tamer Rav Chama Rav Chanina, Mipnei Ma Meis Yosef Kodem Le'echov. How come Joseph died before his brothers? Mipnei Shehinig Atzmo B'Rabbonos, because he treated him right. He acted in a sort of very aristocratic, rulerly way, and I guess a little bit more than he needed to. V'Yosef Hurad Mitzrayim. So it says that Joseph, after he was sold, was brought down to Egypt. Amar Rabbi Elazar, Atikre Hurad Eloho read. Don't read that he was brought down, rather that he brought them down. Show it, it's Tagnine Paro Migdulos, and he brought down the astrologers of Pharaoh from their greatness, because he out-interpreted the dream. He did a better job interpreting the dream than they did. Vaikneu Potiphar Sris Paro, that Potiphar the Saris, the eunuch of Paro, purchased him. Amarav Shekno La'atzmo, says Rab, that Potiphar had initially purchased Yosef to be able to have homosexual relations with Yosef. But Gabriel Ufero, but Gabriel then came and did an operation on Potiphar, and made him a eunuch. Ufera Meikar said Potiphar, Ulevasov Potiphar. Initially it said Potiphar, then after it says Potiphara, a reference to his being a eunuch. Milo Gadol Mimoshe Vigomer. Milanu Gadol Mimoshe Vigomer. We say that Moses was on a very high level in that God himself buried him. Vayomer Hashem Eli Ravloch, that Moses was pleading with the Eibishter to go into Eretz Yisrael, and the Eibishter finally says, Ravlach, enough. Amar Reb Levi Barav Biser, Barav Bisru. Says Reb Levi that Moses sort of announced regarding Rav and Barav Bisru, and they announced back to him Rav. What does that mean? Barav Biser Rav Lochem, that Moses had said to the Korach, look, you have, right, they also wanted to be like the Kohen Gadol, and he said, look, Rav Lochem, you have enough. So Rav Bisru, that is also what they had said to Moses, Rav Loch, look, you have enough, you're not going into Eretz Yisrael. Rav Loch, Rav Yesh, Licha Manu Yoshua. Alternatively, when it says Rav Loch, it says, look, there's already another leader who is, right, Rav, like a teacher, a leader, is already ready, and that is Yoshua, and it's time for him to begin. Alternatively, Rav Loch Shlo Yomra Rav Kamakoshe V'Tamud Kamasarvin, that the Eibishter was saying, look, enough, you don't want people to say that the teacher, that me, the Eibishter, is just so uncompromising, and the student, you, Moses, is just won't give up, like, just move on. How come Moses was treated, so particularly that, all he did was hit a rock, and all of a sudden now he can't go into Eretz Yisrael? That you give a camel based on how much it can handle. Moses, as the great tzaddik that he was on a much higher level, and even, minor things have much bigger impact. Moses says to the Bnei Yisrael, I am 120 years old today. It didn't need to say today. Could have just said, I'm 120 years old. Why does it say I'm 120 years old today? What he's saying is that I'm not just 120 years old, I'm 120 years old today, to the date. To teach you that the Eibishter completes the years of the righteous from day to day and from month to month. Mamish, he died on his birthday, and it's 120th birthday. The pasuk says, that the numbers of your days I will fill. I'm no longer able to go out and to come. My lot says vilavo. What does it mean to go out and to come? Ilema lot says vilavo mamish. If it mamish means I'm too old and fragile and tired, I can't move, I'm out of shape, I can't go, I can't come. But 1 second, the pasuk says that when Moses died at 120 years, Lonas Lecho, his youth never went away. And it says that Moses went from the plains of Moab to Mount Nebo, Vitanya, and it was taught that there were 12 stairs over there, and he did all 12 stairs in one step. Clearly he was in good shape. So Amr Rav Shmuel Bar Nachmani, Amr Rav Yonason, Lotzis Vilavo B'divrei Torah. He was not able to come and go in the words of Torah anymore. That the gates of wisdom were closed from him at that point. Moses and Joshua went and they stood in the tent of meeting. That week, I guess it's that week, or Shabbos, but I think it's probably that week, was there were two there was a pair. There was Moses and Joshua, Nitla Rishus Mizev, Nitla Lazeh, and sort of authority was taken from Joshua and transferred to from Moses and transferred to Joshua. Amr Reb Yehuda, says Reb Yehuda, Ilmale Mikra Kaso V'Efshur La'Omer. If not for the fact that we have psukim, we would be unable to say the following claim, which is the following teaching, which is Heichon Moshe Meis. Where did Moses die? B'Chalkol Shel Ruven, on Har Nebo, in Ruven's portion of Ever Yarden. The pasuk says, Vayal Moshe me'avrus Moav el Har Nebo, that Moses went up from the plains of Moab to Mount Nebo. Unevo b'Chalko Shel Ruven kaima, and Nebo is in Ruven's portion. The pasuk says, Uvnei Ruven banu v'gomer, as Nebo v'gomer. It says that the children of Reuben built Nebo. Vehechon Moshe cover. Now, where is Moshe buried? B'Chalkol Shel God, in the portion of God. So he died in the portion of Reuven, but he's buried in the portion of God. The pasuk says, "Vayai reishis lo v'gomer." Okay, right? Kisham chelkas b'chokek sofun. Right, that in the portion of God is Moshe buried. What is the distance from the portion of Reuben to the portion of God? 4 mil. So how did Moses, if he died on Mount Nebo, how did he get to the portion of God? Those 4 mil, he's dead. Well, it teaches that Moses was resting, was lying on the wings of the divine presence. And the ministering angels are saying, Tzidkas Hashem also mishpatov Yisrael, that he did the righteousness of God and his statutes with Israel. And the Eibishter says, who's going to stand up with me against the Nudniks? Who is like the wise person and who knows how to compromise? Rabbi Yochanan says, where do you find wisdom? Rav Nachman says that Moses died over there. Okay. Smayon Omar says, Smayon Vayamos Shamoshe Safar Rabbi Yisrael. That Moshe, the great, I guess, teacher or scribe of Israel, died. Tanya was taught in Rabbi Eliezer Agadol Omer Shneim Aser Mil al Shneim Aser Mil, that for an area of 12 mil by 12 mil, Machne Yisrael, Keneged Machne Yisrael, like the encampment of Israel. Baskol Mashmiya V'Omer, a heavenly voice comes out and says and proclaims, Vayamos Moshe Safra Rabbi Yisrael, that Moses, the great teacher, scribe of Israel, has passed away. Some say Lo Meis Moshe, that Moses actually never died. Ksivacha, it says over here, Vayamos Sham, that he died over there. Ksivasim, when it says Vayisham Im Hashem, that Moses was with God. Just like when Moses was with God and getting the tablets, he was standing and serving God, and being serving the mishamish, helping out God. So here also nowadays as well, right now as well, even after he died, he didn't actually die, he's still helping out God. Friends, that was the Yud Gimel Masechta Sotah. It was pretty amazing. I got to run do B'dikas Chametz, but it was a Gevaldig Adaf, right? Chushim Ben Don, right? We learned about Serach Bas Osher. We learned about Tzadikim, that their whole, right, they die on their birthday. There's an opinion that Moses never died. Very, very interesting stuff, friends. That was the Yud Gimel of Masechta Sotah, very famous stuff. Hope you enjoyed. Peace out.